Hi, my name is Crystal Miller. I want to start by asking a simple question. How often do we check in on one another? Not with just a hey, how are you, and expect a fine in return, but truly check in on one another. Today's topic is something that affects millions globally, yet still hides in the shadows: depression. It can touch anyone: students, professionals, parents, even those who appear to have everything going right. Let's take a few minutes today to understand depression, its causes, symptoms, how we can help, and how healing is possible. Because the more light we shed on this topic, the less power the darkness has. First, let's talk about why depression happens. There isn't a single cause, it's more like a tangle of biological, psychological, and social factors. Research shows that genetics can make someone more likely to experience depression. Chemical imbalance in neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine can impact mood regulation. Childhood trauma, abusive relationships, chronic stress, all these experiences can build emotional pressure that eventually erupts into depression. Life changes such as divorce, job loss, homelessness, financial hardship, or even moving to a new city can act as a sudden trigger. In our fast-paced world, we often underestimate how much disruption affects mental stability. Chronic illnesses, addiction, and even poor diet and lack of sleep can influence emotional well-being as well. It is important to understand depression isn't a sign of weakness. It's a complex condition that can befall anyone, regardless of how strong or successful they appear. Let's talk about recognizing the signs. The tricky thing about depression is that it doesn't always look like sadness. Common symptoms include persistent feelings of sadness or emptiness, loss of interest in activities once enjoyed, significant changes in appetite or weight, fatigue, low energy even after rest, trouble concentrating or making decisions, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, or helplessness, and finally, the worst of all, thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Some people may become more irritable or socially withdrawn. For others, symptoms might be mostly physical: headaches, stomach problems, or difficulty sleeping. If someone seems off for more than a couple of weeks, it's worth checking in genuinely and compassionately. The good news is depression is treatable. There are several avenues for healing. Talking with a licensed mental professional can make a world of difference. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy help reframe negative thinking patterns. I myself am in therapy. I have borderline personality disorder and I go to DBT therapy. It's a symptom where I push those close to me away because I feel like I am not worth being loved and appreciated. So I hurt them before they hurt me. And I'm learning to change that. There's also medications that can balance the brain chemicals that influence mood. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about clearing the fog so you can reconnect with yourself. Daily habits matter. Regular exercise, balanced nutrition, meaningful social interactions, and quality sleep all contribute to emotional balance. Family, friends, and support groups provide reassurance that no one is alone. Even in a single conversation can be life-changing. But there's still a stigma. People may hesitate to ask for help because of the fear of being judged. That's why we, as friends, family, classmates, co-workers, need to build a culture where seeking help is respected, not dismissed. At this point, I want to share a personal story with you. I have been dealing with depression since I was 11 years old. It started off about being bullied about my size when I was in school and my family situations. I was secluded from my family and treated like an outcast. The only person I really had back then was my dad. He stood by me through everything. At the age of 17, I attempted to take my own life for the very first time. My dad committed me into a hospital to try and get me help. As I got older, the depression got worse. There were days when I woke up begging to die and I just didn't want to do anything anymore. I wouldn't eat. I slept days at a time and just couldn't function. I started seeing doctors regularly. and getting put on medications to help, trying to figure out what to do to make this go away. Last year, I lost my dad, and it was the hardest thing I ever had to go through. A few months after his death, I lost my home, and I've been living on the streets since. But I kept trying. I went to school, I worked hard, and I did what I was supposed to do. Not for me, but for my dad, because his only wish was that I wouldn't give up, because he knew that this would be the hardest thing in my life. And he was so scared that I was going to finally give in to the darkness. But I didn't. On the anniversary of his death, I unfortunately lost my baby. I've been trying for 15 years to get pregnant, and knowing that I was finally pregnant made me the happiest I have ever been. Then one night everything ended and I couldn't cope. I stopped eating, I stopped sleeping, and neglected my schooling because I felt like I had no purpose anymore. But thanks to the support of my family and my professors, I have steadily kept going, and I am trying to pull through. And that's the thing about depression. I know this is a moment of time where darkness keeps coming, but I'll eventually pull out of it, and the pain and the depression will go away for a while. Those moments seem so hard, like the world's ending, and suddenly you bounce back to normal like nothing happened. It messes with you mentally, makes you feel crazy, like you can't be helped. But I'm here to tell you that you can. You can survive this, and you can get better. It just takes time. Stories like this remind us healing is possible. One act of kindness, one open conversation, one moment of courage, that's all it takes to start your journey back. Depression doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It hides behind a smile or just a tired excuse. But the more we learn, the more we talk, and the more we normalize mental health struggles, the better we can support one another. Whether you're someone who's struggling or someone who wants to help, you are not alone. There's hope, there's help, and there's healing. So let's be gentle with one another. Let's be brave enough to speak up, and let's never underestimate the power of asking someone, "How are you really?" Thank you.